curious, how often do you find yourself posting on LinkedIn? Like, honestly, like sometimes I'll be on fire with it and I'll post like maybe twice a week, but lately I sort of haven't been. And I'm kind of curious how has it been, how often do you find that you are doing it compared to how often you want to be doing it? You can put it in the chat if you don't want to talk, but Carrie, you want to share?
I'm trying to do it at least once a week. I've been 60% successful.
Yeah, I think that's an honest answer. I mean, it's kind of like, it ends up being kind of another thing to do. And Carrie, since you're talking, if you were to tell me, like, aside from the obvious, right? You're busy, you're trying to do a million things. You know, what is the thing that maybe slows you down a little bit around being able to do that thing that you're saying, you know, you want to do?
Right now it's feeling a little worn out between pandemic and having moved in the middle of the pandemic, quite frankly. So it's like,
it's just another errand that is like, well.
Right. So it's just, so that's, I'm trying to use this as my networking tool since I do a lot of event work, that's not happening. So trying to find some other client base right now.
Okay, so the goal is that then. The goal is rebuilding or building up a new client base, finding people who want to hire you to help with their events.
Exactly. Or other work until there are events again.
Yes. And what about everyone else? I mean, there's, we'll talk about this. There's lots of different reasons people use specifically that thing, but what are other blocks that you have around doing it? And I have my own, like, I don't know what I'm going to put up there right now. Like, where do I want to focus it? Where are some of the blocks you have around what to post? Not what, but why to post? Like, what are some of your blocks? Anyone else want to share? Kind of curious.
So I'll go.
Sure, Shweta.
It's been interesting trying to figure out what the differentiating factor is between the different social media handles.
Yeah.
So, you know, for me as a coach, as a storyteller, words come easily. I don't take them for granted, but it's part of what I do, who I am. But again, just knowing what is enough for LinkedIn versus what would work on Facebook or Instagram, and without sounding repetitive, but then there's only just so much content. So that inner conflict also.
Where to put it. Yep. Yeah. What other kinds of blocks are we dealing with up there? Around LinkedIn specifically. Anyone else want to share or type?
I would say part of it has to do with not knowing where these people are during this pandemic time. And you know, how they feel about being approached right now.
Well, I mean, even approach, like putting a LinkedIn post up isn't, I'd say, as aggressive as, hi, reaching out to someone. And I don't mean aggressive in a negative, but I mean direct, like, hey, you, what are you doing? But when you're putting something up there, the fact that there is sensitivity around, are people going to want to see this? Is this the wrong timing? So there's a sensitivity to timing, I guess, and how people are going to respond to having something up there. Okay. Which is busy, hard to get it up there. What's the difference between posting it here and posting it somewhere else? Anything else that you think should be on the table of things that we're going to sort of tackle here? I mean, obviously I'm here, and Nancy, we just want to give you some time to talk to people and get people in. And so I'm happy to kind of start this conversation now, so I know more going in. I'm curious about any thoughts around content that, what are the are there things that you are like, oh yeah, I love to post things like this here? Or does anyone feel like, I don't even know what to say on this post right now? You feel like that? Is it Yamilka?
Yes, it is. You pronounced it correctly.
And what is that blog? Tell us about that.
Well, it's interesting because my audience are all creative directors, and they know about film, and it's mostly like film. But oftentimes I want to like certain things, and I just don't know. I know that they'll see what I'm liking, but it has nothing to do with what they would want, or maybe it is. But I'm wondering, should I be thinking about that as I'm scrolling and, I like this article and I like this article. And I sort of want to share this, but it really has nothing to do with my audience and my message. How do you navigate that?
Okay. Anyone else feel like, so what we're talking about here are general, like tapping into different audiences and what is okay to show people that you liked or didn't like, how, because everything's visible. All your gestures are kind of visible, right? There's that too. Anything else that you're like, hey, let's make sure we get this up there as well? Oh, I saw that, Nancy. I thought I saw Nancy up there. Anything else?
I would
Just so I can collect them.
Too, like concerned about being too sales pitchy or over promotional, like how much is showing too much portfolio work, for example, or like balance of not overdoing it, I guess.
Does anyone get stuck on like, I'm going to post something and I'm like not sure which is more appropriate or more interesting? Like sometimes people say, well, I wanted to write this, but I don't know if that's boring. What are the prejudgy things you say about your own work before you even put it up there?
So, Terry, the one thing that I know I've been struggling with is like, if you have a personal brand, which I assume a lot of people here in this conversation do, despite having a personal brand, what is too personal and what is professional?
That's a great topic too. Now, some of the things we're going to, today, I mean, what we're talking about is literally, excuse me, feeding the beast of doing it. Now, I don't know how I've been, wait till Nancy gets her start on this whole thing, but I am not someone who's worked for LinkedIn. I am not a LinkedIn expert. I have talked to people and worked with people who know a lot more about this than me. I don't have a hack answer for these, for like, oh, what's the best way to do it? My thinking is, if there were one way that always worked and never failed and did everything, got you business, we would all know it and we would all already be doing it because it'd be the obvious way to do it. Like everyone knows when you're going to walk, you go left foot, right foot, left foot. If everyone somehow decided that actually left foot's faster, we would all be doing that. We do what comes naturally and what feels right to us. And every one of you is a different person and is a different business and a different desire for being on there. So while I don't have a hack for it, and I don't think the reason I don't is I don't believe that's the answer. It's not how I approach it in mine either. What we're going to look at are, because I do believe that the whole point of being on there, and this is backed up by someone who knows a lot more than me, is to have that conversation with the people there so that you're having the kind of conversations you want. Now, to me, the content of a conversation is everything. It's not, if we're worried about, well, is this too salesy? If something feels too salesy, it might be that you're not secure yet with what you're offering. It feels weird to say, or you've maybe something about how you've written it doesn't feel quite aligned with who you are. Salesy is sort of we can all think of people who have been salesy to us that we hated, and we like to think we're not them. And so I do believe we kind of trust our gut on a lot of those things. Do I think, because I've heard people literally, I've been on calls with people who are like, well, I don't even know if I should sell anything because, it's a pandemic. I was like, woman, you need to run your business and run your life. Like if everyone takes their foot off the gas and no one sells anything, then we're not able to support and keep money flowing and circulating through businesses / women's businesses. So, there's not going to be a, yeah. Hey, no one's selling anything for a while. Okay. No, you're never going to hear that from me, and you won't hear from anyone who has anything to sell. So off the bat, I want to make sure that it's not up for discussion. You must sell things, but the way you sell doesn't mean sell the way we don't like to be associated with. It's about, as Seth Godin always says, enroll, right? Enroll. And so what we're going to jump into in a little bit is a take on content, because that's really my zone of genius, is getting people to be excited and energized about the conversations they want to have through content on anywhere, but specifically because it came by request, LinkedIn. And so we're going to talk about some of the things that I've learned and heard from people, that here's what works, here's what probably doesn't matter, and here are the ways to think about content. My goal for you today is that when you leave this conversation, you're like, oh my God, yes, I have so many ideas, I got to get them down. So that you have a lot that you're going to move forward with. But it's not just going to be LinkedIn specific. Yes, you're going to learn LinkedIn specific stuff that I've learned too. But the idea is that the content wheel turns for your business in every direction. Now, as Sweta said, like, yeah, sometimes is it Instagram? Is this? How much is personal? How much is this? This is the new world of trying to figure out, like, how much skin are we showing? Like, really, that's what this kind of is like, how much of it is us? How many, by a show of hands, so I can see hands in there, how many of you are, for lack of a better word, fakes of your brand? When they call you, they're going to work with you, or are they not going to ever get to touch you? They're going to get to work with you. Okay. So you are the face of that brand. You're the one they're going to have a conversation with. And so that content, the way we think about it, my goal for you is that you have new tools for thinking about content, not just that, but I would love, if you're willing to play along with me here, that you leave this conversation today, this workshop, with a piece of content. And you will, because that's what we're about to do.
Okay. Well,
so just check in with you.
I want to thank everyone for coming. Zoom deleted the link today. This is the second wondrous Zoom thing that happened to me within the past 2 weeks. So all of a sudden I'm emailing everyone. We did not start. TERRI was just kind enough to preamble while I furiously emailed, Slacked, and texted the link to people. So right now we're -4 people, I believe, so we're really ready to start.
Well, just jump in. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I want to welcome everyone here. My name is Nancy Russo. For those of you who are new here, the Creatives Roundtable is an accountability group and creative community that meets monthly in online groups of 6 people to help you with the business side of your creative business by breaking your goals into bite-sized tasks that are manageable, talking through hot topics, and getting feedback from one another. Registration will open in November for our 2021 term. Our Facebook and Slack groups are open. If you're interested, we can send you that information. I'm going to skip telling you about the upcoming events because you're going to get emails about those since you're getting you signed up for this. I first met TERRI at a How Live presentation. We were introduced by Elise Benin of Marketing Mentor, who said that TERRI should speak for the CR community. I then invited her to a cocktail party I was hosting with Fly Female Founders, and I thought she was fantastic. I watched her TED Talk, Stop Searching for Your Passion, which has over 6 million viewers. And I participated in a couple of her workshops. She's amazing. TERRI is an award-winning writer, speaker, and brand advisor. HubSpot named her one of the top 18 female speakers who are killing it. She's a former magazine editor and radio host at Martha Stewart. She's appeared on The Today Show, Dr. Oz, The Early Show, Anderson Cooper, as well as in Oprah Magazine, Marie Claire, and Business Insider. And she has a book tentatively titled Stop Searching for Your Passion, which will be published in 2022. So TERRI, I will now let you take it away.
Yeah, are we surprised that's the name of the book? I was like, I have a name of a book, and the publisher was like, no, we have the name of the book. We're naming it after the one thing you've done that anyone has seen. Okay, whatever you say. You want a publishing deal, you do what the publisher wants. I'm thrilled to be here. It's always a pleasure. I love this group. I feel like I'm kind of deep DNA with like the How Live and the Nancy world of creatives, and I feel that I am that if I'm lucky and privileged enough, I consider myself among you doing and kind of, well, we all are sort of figuring some things out, fumphing around the others, and trying to basically continue to not just keep our heads above water, but really make strides during weird ass times that we're in. But I will say that if I have faith in a group, it is this group. Because what I know about you is that you are entrepreneur and entrepreneurial in thinking. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs who are not entrepreneurial in thinking, and then they're not able to do what they need to do well. But you're also people who identify as creatives. And that's critical because if you haven't noticed, a lot of the world lacks vision. So thank God for you. So let's tap into that. You know, I have some insights and stuff that might be helpful for you as tools, just as all of you have tools that would be incredibly helpful to me. So I'm going to share them with you. Take what you want, leave the rest, and would love to hear if you found it helpful. So I love to show some visuals. I'm going to bounce in and out of them. We're going to just kind of run through them so we can get to the fun part, which is going to be us actually putting into practice here a very specific approach to writing content that my hope is that it opens you up and makes things feel freer and easier. All the hacks and the strategies and the thoughts about that, we can talk about a little bit about that. I don't want to go down too far in the rabbit hole of LinkedIn strategy, because we can all Google it and find out what other people said works, but specifically because most important is how to make what you do work for you. And that's why I want to spend time making sure we give some attention to that today. And you're actually going to get to do it with me. So some of you don't know me at all. I'm asking you to trust me. I know it's a big leap, but let's do it. So let's jump in. And yeah, I do a bunch of slides and I kind of race through it. I love this image so much. I was like, I am using that. Fantastic.
I can give it to you if you would like.
I love it.
Elsewhere. Okay.
Well, let me move us because I have our pictures covering my slides, which is just one of those problems. Meet the beast. This is the beast. Instagram is just one of the, LinkedIn, Instagram, they're all little beasts. But you already understand the value of great content, or you'd be out doing something else right now. You have lots of ideas. Ideas are not your problem. You used to like writing. Maybe you still love it. Maybe you used to love it more before, and now it feels like work. Because every time you go to write copy, you die a little bit inside and you want to like curl up under a blanket and be like, maybe next week. What we're going to do is going to help overcome some of the assumptions and blocks and other things that keep us from doing content that works for us. I have to move us again. Sorry, I can't read my own screen. Simplify and focus the efforts so that you're not having to do, for those of you who are doing a different kind of post for every social media, I like, God bless you, that takes a lot of effort. We're going to pinpoint some of the goals and purpose. Not your overall life purpose, which is a bigger discussion, but your purpose in doing this specific thing. And you're going to try an approach that helps you find more fluidity in your own work. That's the one thing we're going to do later, the activity. Why is it hard to face a blank page? I love to write. I love to create content. And I hit a block. It's like you bang your head against a wall here. But I had a few aha moments that did change everything for me. And it was that I realized that, having the conversations with people and writing the content was supposed to be the fun part, and that it could be fun. It doesn't have to be something I feel like I had to do. Yes, we all have emails that we have to write and things we have to do, but I try to surprise myself into making it fun, or else I know I won't do it. So I stopped looking at content as a task and instead as a way to connect with people. As soon as I think of it as work, it's game over for me. I also, and this is different, this is backwards from how people usually do it. They go, let me think about what I'm going to write about. And sometimes we'll do that. But I realized myself that sometimes I discover it best by writing first. And that's different. That's different. That's like waiting till you're in the mood for something versus doing it and then getting yourself in the mood. Now, I have spent my career crafting ideas in and for the media. Of course, now I've been working for myself for the past, 9 years and not working as a full-time, media person. But that's where I cut my teeth. Can you keep someone reading? Can you keep them listening or watching? And to me, that's the thread that has gone through everything that I've done. Now, the way I describe what I do is I help people change the way they think about, talk about, and communicate what they do. I am platform agnostic, industry agnostic, generally agnostic. So it doesn't matter what business anyone's in. Everyone has something to share, sell, and do for other people. And for all of us, when it's very close to us, it's hard to describe sometimes. I also had this talk. The reason I share it is not because, it somehow made me an expert, because I only shared what I knew, which was I hated that advice. But the reason I shared is because no one was looking for me when I did this talk. This was 5 years ago. No one was looking for me. And I didn't think I was qualified to give any kind of TED talk. Like, I didn't know. The reason anyone likes this talk and watches it and shares it is because it speaks to them. It had nothing to do with me, really, at all. So same thing is when we talk about presence. What does it mean to have presence? When someone says, oh, they've got great presence, or you can feel their presence in the room. Well, we talk about online presence now, right? And online presence isn't a website. Anyone can and should have a website, but that's just a shingle, right? That doesn't, it's good to have, it's a good start. But having a website, having a profile, having all these things, it doesn't denote presence. Presence requires responsiveness. And why do you think people go, I'd rather do a Q&A than prepare a talk? Well, because preparing a talk is like a whole big heavy lift, whereas Q&A, well, someone will ask me something. We like being responsive. It's fun. And so that is really, I want to start to reframe the way we think about content, because the way I sometimes have thought about it was just a bunch of heavy lifting to do. At the same time, this idea that we can chock-a-block factory produce content and just push it out there. The delusion is that content will serve its highest purpose for you and for what you do if your soul died while writing it. People know. And I also understand that it doesn't ever stop or end. And the idea that I have to do content forever is like, nah, I need a nap. I get it. This is what we're trying to avoid. Also, don't try to do content when you're tired. Take a nap. But some of the assumptions we have around content, I want to flip for us here before we start zooming in on this specific platform. And some of those assumptions are, well, this is boring, or I'm bored with it, or this, no one will care about this. That's what we always feel. Oh, it's not interesting enough. There's actually no such thing as a boring topic or an interesting one. Let me say that again. There's no such thing as a boring topic or an interesting topic. Because if you think it's boring, then that tells me that we haven't done the work yet to identify where the beating heart of it is and why it matters. And if you automatically think it's interesting, so you don't have to maybe do anything about it, then you're resting on your laurels, assuming that everyone's interested in the same thing you are. So what makes anything interesting is the effort you take to bridge that to the reader, to the listener. Doesn't matter. You can make anything worth watching or listening to. I'm out of ideas. Now this group, you're never out of ideas. It's more like you have so many ideas, you can't even get to them all. But your brain, if you sometimes go, oh my God, I'm drawing a blank, there's a fear around that too. Your brain is a thought generating machine. You can't not have ideas. Even if you're like, I have no ideas, that's an idea. There's so much content out there already. This is the other thing, right? It's like, oh my gosh, there's already so much. Like, should I start a podcast? There's already podcasts. Should I do this? There's so much. What is the point? Will I matter? We start to have an existential downward spiral, and it's no good from there. There's also a lot of books in the world. If we stopped doing books, there would be enough books for you to spend the rest of your life reading. But does that mean that no one's writing any new books? No. So I say, whenever we have these bigger fears of like, but there's so much and there's too much, I go, I don't care. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because you're going to focus on the people you're trying to reach or in your world. And then you're going to find people who those people know. You're not trying to boil the ocean here. Oh God, please. If it doesn't go viral, it's not worth it. There's like 5 videos that have gone viral, and like, are those people the most successful people in the world? Maybe they just had a viral video once. Like, that doesn't translate to the kind of sustainable business that will keep you and me afloat. It's the wrong goal. No one plans for viral, which I think is hilarious. We're like, oh, I specialize in viral videos. It's like, oh, really? Do you also specialize in best-selling books? We don't know how someone's going to respond to a thing. What you're going for with any content you do, though, is connection. It's not, well, maybe this will go viral. It's like, I think that's the wrong goal. Now, to be clear, I think of content as different from marketing. They work together. They need each other. Absolutely. I mean, there's no point in having amazing music if you don't plug in an amp and let people hear it. Marketing to me is the effort, the endeavor of connecting great stuff with the right people. But content is different. Content's on a platform. Content is the conversation. So when you worry about, well, is this too salesy, or should I reach out to these people? Should I do this? Are they going to be upset? Managing someone that you're not talking to at the moment, managing other people's emotions that you don't know and aren't talking to at the moment, is not what a great conversation is. A great conversation is, hey, let's talk about this thing. Like if someone calls me and says, listen, I'm trying to decide, should I get this standing desk or that standing desk? I don't go, Cheryl, there's a pandemic going on. We can't talk about this right now. I don't not have conversations about things, even small things, because there's a pandemic, right? It means that real conversations are even more important than ever. So even though this might or may not be your target audience, 2 white ladies in muted tones, but I want you to just look at the energy in their faces. They are connected. They're laughing, but you also get the sense that they're not high and just joking around. Like they're having a real conversation. You don't have to have a conversation with these women, but the energy between them is the very thing that I think great content should do, and nothing short of that. The way I see content is a conversation. It is a scalable conversation. So when you have a great conversation with a colleague or a client, you're like, oh my God, that's so true. And you create ideas. You share, oh my God, this is so brilliant. Grab onto some of that stuff and share it as content. Why? Because that's how you scale conversation. That's all content is. And I know I didn't steal it, that idea, because I was like, why isn't anyone saying this? That it's not just pumping out content as a widget, but is a way to scale the conversations that you'd like to have with more people. Marketing is what allows us to scale it. It's the platforms, it's the thinking and strategy behind all that that makes it happen. Putting handles on it and being able to hand it to the world. So some things I want you to think about. Right? What is the goal of your conversation? Now, there are 2 that are the goal of pretty much any conversation. and it is create some kind of connection, any kind, create connection that matters to you, right, and your business, but also spark action. Create connection, spark action. Notice I didn't say sell stuff. Yes, you need to sell stuff. I need to sell stuff. We absolutely need to sell stuff. But when you create connection and you spark an action, that is how any of those transactions happen. That is how you enroll people. As Seth Godin says, it's about enrolling, getting people to want to be in the conversation, whether that's a free event, like a free thing you're offering, or a paid event, getting people to want to connect, not just you're either no one or you're buying my highest premium offering, and say, well, no, you know, there's a lot of room in there for lots of different conversations. You have really intense conversations with people like, you know, your family member or your closest friend, but it doesn't mean you can't have conversations with everyone else. The action they spark is what we want to think about. This quote comes from a book called Utility by Jay Baer. And he says, content is fire and social media is gasoline. So I am a big fan of making sure you own and publish your content and share your content in ways that are yours, your blog, your email, your whatever, and then you share it with social media, right? You share it with LinkedIn. If you put all of your best content on LinkedIn and you didn't have a copy of it anywhere, and LinkedIn goes down for some reason, you've just built your house on someone else's property that you don't own. I would rather build the house on my own property and put pictures of my house on other people's property. See what I'm saying? So LinkedIn, the biggest Rolodex in the world, unfortunately, a lot of people on there sound like a Rolodex. They are just sitting in the card deck and not really doing a lot. It's also become, and it is evolving. We're really early years of this. It's turning into something a lot more dynamic. And it has gotten a bad rap. You know, Instagram is like the sexy little sister, and like LinkedIn is like all the more business minded. You know, it's a little stodgier. Okay, fine, but it's only going to be as dynamic and as exciting as the people who share on there. And so the question of personal versus professional, we will get to that. What do people share on there, on LinkedIn specifically? This is my thinking. Maybe I'm missing some things. I did this. I sell this. I love this. I think this. It probably, what you're sharing there, probably along those lines, something like that. That's great. There's nothing wrong with those, but those are the different kinds of things. If you were to say, I sell this, and that's all you ever put on there is here's what I'm selling, not going to be as effective. If you only say, I love this, and you like everyone else's stuff, but you never have anything to say of your own, that's not great. If you share your wonderful thinking and thought leadership stuff, but there's never a way for me to engage with it. So it's kind of like the whole idea of a conversation is that it's not all questions, it's not all answers, and it's not all juicy stories, right? It's all of these things. I want you to think of your LinkedIn conversation as just an extension of your conversations. This is the woman I've worked with and known for years. She's a dear friend now. And when I first started working with her, I was just like, oh, she's this brilliant person. She is a marketing strategist, really exceptional in the digital space, and has done a lot of corporate consulting with companies like Accenture and, you know, like big in-house corporate people, helping them build their personal brands. But she also does a ton. Every time I open LinkedIn, her post is at the top because she posts a lot. So I said to her, like, I'm curious as to, since you're doing it more consistently than most people, and she's a marketing brain, they're really good at looking at the metrics sometimes, the numbers. So what are you finding is working and useful? What is your take on this? And this is like what she does. Expert insight from Cass. So I encourage you to look up and follow. Long tail, she said. There's a long tail. People see posts. It's not just about what's there that day. Some of those posts, they're like not so much viral, but they grow over time. Like they just keep growing. And she's like, it's long tail and a long game. You know, the instant sell. I didn't sell anything like it. Like it doesn't turn around so fast. It almost requires more trust because it requires more conversation going on. Long game. She's like, you got to be in it for that long game to build. I mean, she says it's for her, and her purpose is like to build that network of people and resources. And it just doesn't happen like that. It's like you wouldn't walk into a party and leave and be like, I didn't meet all my new best friends. It's like, well, you just went to a party. You need to hang out and see people a few times. So it is a long game. She said what has worked, and this is about as hacky as any of this will get about hacks, so tagging people. And I think what I've understood is that LinkedIn favors favors real pictures of real people. And also when there's tagging conversation going on, somehow the algorithms, I think, lift that stuff up. Also really great to like shine a light on other people's stuff. So, and being like, hey, this person, it's one thing to share their stuff or to like their stuff, but the next game up is, hey, I heard this interview with this person and here's what I thought about it, right? Adding some meat on the bones of it. And here it is. So that it's kind of like rising tide that way. But tagging people, hey, if someone tags me on LinkedIn, I notice it and I respond to it in some way, right? Because it's kind of like, it's not the same as showing yourself running in your new like Lululemon pants and tagging Lululemon on Instagram. You're probably not going to maybe hear back from them right away, right? But tagging other people that in your world on LinkedIn is a great way of getting attention. I've done trainings like this and people have taken a picture of the screen of a quote they like, posted it on LinkedIn and tagged me and said, I really love this thing. And it's like, oh my God, like, it's a big Rolodex room, but it's a small room. So I'm like, who is that person? I can immediately go over and look and see like, wow, that was really cool. That matters. Hashtags, Cass says, meh. She's like, I've been looking at hashtags. She's like, I don't think that people are searching LinkedIn by hashtag the way they do on Instagram. Different beast. I've also been like feeling like I have to do that. And I'm like, why am I doing it? I don't know that it's made a bit of difference. I don't have actual hard numbers on that, but I'm telling you, like, I would love if people spent less time like agonizing over hashtags on LinkedIn and just had like much better content. She also says you'll get more eyeballs than engagement. You know, Facebook, it's your friends. It's a little more personal there. You like things. You're more likely to like. That's liking culture on Facebook. Whereas on LinkedIn, you'll get more views than you might get engagement. And she said, you know, I had one post that it had like 7 likes, just much, maybe a few comments, but, you know, a couple thousand views. And then 3 people reached out privately, like DM'd her on LinkedIn. And to me, that's the ultimate engagement, right? Is if someone reaches out to you personally and says, hey, I really like that thing. And so to me, the engagement, as we all know, is more important than the number of likes. That like thing has thrown us off. We're having like flashbacks. You need to ask for the engagement you want. So Cass says sometimes she'll be like, hey, like this post if you like people need a direction about that if you want engagement. And again, I don't think it's like make everyone jump through hoops to do stuff. Why? So that you feel good about yourself? Like I'm really careful about making people jump through hoops unless I have a really clear reason for that. I also am more interested in the eyeballs than the engagement in the sense that I just want people to have seen it, right? And that's the argument for consistency. And she says the consistency is key. So, you know, she's up there. I see something new almost every day from her. You don't have to jump from 0 to every day. But if you're posting once a month and someone else is posting twice a week, well, you're not going to be seen as much. It's the same argument for anything. What you say, now let's move into some of the content stuff around this. And I'm happy to say I kept my afternoon couple hours open. So if people have questions, I'm going to stay to answer the questions you have. I don't want to take time away from the exercise that I want you to try though. What you say depends on what you want to do. So here's some thoughts on that. What best describes your goal? People all say they want more visibility, more business, more income, more recognition. There's no one who goes, nah, I don't want any of that. I just want a few extra bucks a month. Well, no, we want all of this. This is what we do. All of our lives and careers are built on these things. There are many different reasons, though, to scale a conversation. And it's, you know, if you're just coming in hot with sales every second with no conversation on LinkedIn, I don't know that you're going to get much of a response unless you have the hugest following in the world already where people are dying to buy things from you. But here are some reasons. And here's where the contradictions happen, which is why this matters. You might do it to bring in more clients. You might want to stop working with one-on-one clients. Conversation does both, depending on what you say, what you want to do. You might want to be doing more work in this area. You might want to be doing less work. So you're going to scale some things and sell a course and do less of it. You might want to start going places again soon and being invited to go speak and do stuff. Some people do content so they don't have to do that. You know, maybe we'd love to go and be invited to speak because we're a bunch of people who likes to do that. But some people like, A lot of writers write so that they be like, no, just buy the book, please. I don't feel like talking to anybody. One of the women in my life who I admire tremendously, who's been a good friend for years, is someone who, if you're not following her, be a good idea, is Laura Belgray. Her emails are fantastic. She's talkingshrimp.com. She's Marie Forleo's copywriter. I mean, they're tight. They've been friends for a million years, but she has quite a platform because of that. Yes. But she also decided a few years ago to stop working one-on-one with people. She was like, I was happiest when I didn't have those calls on my calendar. So she tried to price herself out. She was charging so much, hoping that people would just go, this is stupid, I'm not hiring you. She couldn't get people to stop hiring her. That is an interesting way of looking at things. She literally was over $1,000 an hour. And she was like, is it that over $1,000? Like, you can't hire it. You can't do that. That's dumb. You shouldn't do that. People still hired her. So she had to say, I'm not working with clients anymore. Does she do less content? Not on your life. She does more. She's not trying to bring in clients. She wants people to maybe apply for her program or to be aware of this so that when she does affiliate marketing, which is where she earns a lot of her living, she has people following her. So it can be anything you want. There doesn't have to be one right way. Let's look at some examples though quickly so I can show you. And I don't have the magic algorithm here, but this woman who I met when I spoke at Toyota, she said, hey, she was thinking about joining a writing program that I lead. And she goes, I think I need to do more content. She's like, she's talent development senior analyst. I don't see writer in there. I don't see freelance journalist in there. And there's a lot of copy. You don't have to read it right this second. But she said, I think I need to write more because I wrote something and I got so much attention for it. Now, just the beginning of this, I'm getting tired of hearing that Latinx and Latinas are not good tooting their own horns. I am taking it upon myself to change that narrative. Are you ready for this? And then she goes on to show all the things she's won and earned. It unapologetic, fantastic. This isn't a piece of Pulitzer Prize journalism. This is, hey, you know what? I hate this, that too many women don't talk about this, so I'm going to share it. Yeah. Hang on, now I can't see the bottom. Here's what's fascinating about this. 25,000 likes, 1,500 comments. This is not a woman who has been like selling courses and consulting. She works at Toyota. Maybe there's a lot of people who follow her. I didn't know what her platform was before, but she goes, oh, she was blown away by it. She goes, I had 25,000 likes. Now she sent me a screenshot, which I'm sharing with you. And she has a view of her own post that you and I wouldn't have if you went to her now on her profile. But I did see it and I'm going to share it with you. 700 and nearly 50,000 views. So like 25,000 likes is like, holy cow, that's great. Oh, what? Over 500,000 views? She's like, oh my God, people, I guess I should keep doing this. I should keep writing. I was like, yes, you should. She was not like, I'm a thought leader. She was like, I was like, yes, now you are. What if you were the woman who did that? Who is the woman who said, we're going to talk about what we did? That's unbelievable. Now, mine, I'm not getting 500,000 views. Here's an example of someone of mine. I have a long relationship with this company called Equilibrium, and I wrote a piece for them. You know why? Because I was sitting here, I read a book that had been sitting on my shelf staring at me for months and years, and I read it, and I said, oh, this would make a good post, so I wrote it for them. And then I said, oh, you know, I should share it. So I just wrote about it. I can't tell you, it's not like it's the most amazing thing I've ever written. Had 1,000 views. For me, that's pretty great. Here's what got a lot of attention. I was like, well, I got a book deal not that long ago. It was my first ever, very exciting. And I was like, well, I got to share it. Now, once it's officially published news that this is happening, you can talk about it. So I was like, you can't really see there, but let me see. Whoops. You can't see it, but it says, I have news. And I just said, hey, and I told a little story about that. And is it telling you how many posts? How many? Yeah. Okay. 133 comments on that. Let's see. Hang on. Let me show you. 3,800 views of that. It was a really big deal. And I got so many messages from people. It rekindled the thing. Again, do you notice a trend? 2 people sharing what happened to them. This happened to me. I was excited about this. It mattered. You might go, well, I don't know, toot my own horn and brag about it. I waited because when I got the deal, it was during like the explosion of Black Lives Matter, I was like, yeah, no, this is not the time. So I waited until I felt that it was okay to share some good news. And I checked with people first. I said, do you think this would be okay? And people were like, you know what? People want to hear some good news. And the people who know you'd be happy for you. So that was fun. Here's another thing I started doing. I said, you know what? Everyone with their freaking polished headshots, I'm going to go find some gritty old pictures of me and just like, maybe I'll write about that. So I found this picture and then was like, oh my God, what the heck is that? And this is, just fun. And my mother looks fabulous. So I was like, I'm going to write a post about that. So I wrote something about that. 2,300. I don't always get 2,300 views. People connect with the human. They want to see the human thing. Now, I have a picture here's a polished photo done by a professional photographer this winter. And I wrote, do you like this picture? I'm meh about it. I think it basically looks like, hi, meet your new divorce lawyer. Like I made fun of the picture. And that got a bunch of views. Wait, what did that get? Yeah, over 1,000 views. For me, that's pretty great. And then I was like, well, how about this? I'll show a picture of me in a bikini and a beer. Now, for those who are like, oh, is that a little too personal? I was like, meh, let's see. Let's see. Now, it might not feel comfortable for you to show a picture of yourself drinking beer on the beach in Queens. I get it. But to me, there was a reason, and we're not going to go into it now, but I was like, here's, blah, blah, blah. I told a story about it. It wasn't like, look at me on the beach drinking. I mean, I posted it during it was like in the middle of winter or something. So, but my point is, hey, it didn't even get as many views, but who cares? It's kind of like, what is the picture of you want to share? Literally. And they're not always just pictures of me, but they need to have something to connect with. And people are like, oh my God, where was that in Queens? Like it started conversations. This has not been posted. My sister found this picture and she was like, this is amazing. I was like, I don't know what that's going to be, but I'm literally going to write content in order to share that picture. Like what's in that? I go, okay, well, what's the first time I caught something? What does it mean to get something on the line? Like, you think I'd be excited about catching the fish, but I look unsure. Maybe this is a post about be careful what you ask for. Are you sure you're catching what you want? Like who knows? But there's something to it. And it's such a weird picture. And, I was born in the 70s, so we don't have a lot of pictures. Anyway, let's dive into what makes great content for you to use. It's not just about ideas. It's about story and stance. And so the question of how personal can personal be, as personal as you want. You might not talk about your sex life on LinkedIn. Yeah, that might be a little strange. I don't know. I don't say no to anything. It's all about context and how it's treated. But what is your reason for telling the story? And what is your opinion about the thing you're sharing? For people who literally only use LinkedIn to be like, I did this, I won this, I was with this famous person, that's fine. But then you kind of get like like, I want to feel like I'm imagine you're on a date with someone and they're like, just talk about all the cool things they did. It's like, okay, well, are we going to have a conversation or are you just going to talk about yourself? Like, I think that's why I keep coming back to conversation. So then how do we keep from hitting this? How can we come at stuff? The reason we're feeling like, oh, is this too salesy? Because I don't want to be seen as nakedly asking for something that I know only I want. We get around that by making the conversation something worth engaging in. So how do we do that? We start seeing content everywhere and not just you can take it from client conversations and work stuff and news and pandemic stuff. But you know what I think people are tired of in the pandemic is hearing about the pandemic. It's like, we need to be moving on and talking about what are we doing in response to it? What's changed? What are we excited about? Content comes from everywhere. It doesn't matter where. The seeds of your idea for a great shared thing don't have to just come out of the work briefcase. Now, people shop for content ideas in different ways. I bore easy, so I don't like to do things in a very orderly way. I know people who do. They look at their content this way. They organize it by type and brand and topic, and they go right down the aisle, and that is how it's going to be organized. And they like it because then they know what day they're writing about what thing. I hate this way for me. I think this bores me. I go, oh my God, I could write up a calendar and I would never want to do those things. I don't want to write about that on Tuesday. Tuesday comes around now. I like to shop for content ideas the way you would at an outdoor open air market. I want to talk to Bob about his pears or whatever. I want to go try this goat jerky and learn about where the goat jerky's from. And then, like, who knows? I just want to be surprised by something. And so this is how I prefer to shop. But you got to do what works for you. But I think what helps is to shop locally and think globally. So whatever happens to you, whatever funny thing happened to you in the house, maybe you haven't left your house, maybe you were shopping for nectarines. Actually, I'll tell you a story I do want to do a post about, and I keep a little list, is I went to go buy fruit at an open air market a few weeks ago, and I was trying to decide between the nectarines and the peaches, and a woman next to me looked at me and she goes, yeah, but it's a nectarine year. And I was like, it is a nectarine year. And I was like, I never asked her what I thought that meant to her, but I was like, is it a nectarine year? Like, I don't know. I don't know what's going to come out of that. But it was like, interesting new idea. So what has your interest right now? And why does it matter to your audience? What interests you right now? That's where the personal meets professional. Because I could read someone else's book or someone else's post. If I'm reading yours, I want to know about you. So I know if I want to work with you or talk to you ever again. Why does it matter to the audience? That's the Venn diagram, right? Like here's you, here's what interests you in your life, and then here's what you do. And maybe there's interesting, someone who works in events might have thought that the nectarine year would be something different. Maybe peaches go soft sooner and nectarines are a little hardier. Take it and run with it. So what has gotten on your nerves lately or made you laugh? That's something to think about. Think about that. There's something in there that is maybe worth thinking about. How does your experience cause you to see that thing differently than someone else would? Like I always say, we could all sit down and watch the same Seinfeld episode, and we would all have a different take on it. And we could all use it. One episode, we could use it 15 different ways. So you can jot this down now. You don't have to jot down, you can jot down answers to it, but just quickly jot down so you can do it later. One thing you read recently. Don't just give me the Malcolm Gladwell book that you read. Like give me other random shit that you've read, or some weird story, or maybe you read a modern love column that you loved, or you're reading a great novel. One thing you watched. What are you watching on Netflix? What problems do you have with it? Maybe you saw a movie and you're like, I wasted 2 hours of my life and here's my biggest problem with it. What's one thing that really pissed you off? Why? And one thing that piqued your curiosity. It's a nectarine year. One piece of advice you have given or received. That's always a good one. If you jot those things down, you could have 2 or 3 things per question there, and you would have the next 6 months of content if you wanted. That's not the exercise. That's just to get your wheels turning around the kinds of places where your best, most riveting content can come from. And yes, for a LinkedIn audience. Then we explore what we call the arc to meaning. So something happens, your partner said this, or your kid or your friend did this thing. And it's like, well, how does that intersect, highlight, or inspire an aspect of what you do? Because it is going to come back to career stuff, right? Come back to some kind of learning, life or learning or lesson of some kind. Where does that thing intersect with what you know? And what does it mean? The audience does need to be told kind of what it means. Now, this can be really exciting to kind of go down that path and be like, oh, okay, well, what could be? So how do we keep this going? Well, we stop looking at what doesn't work. We stop worrying. Am I selling too much? Is this too personal? Am I going to offend people? Every one of the questions that came up today when we were started were worried about someone else's behavior or judgment, which you cannot control and you will never control. And actually, that's not where you start with your content. Is this too fill in the blank? And what really, what pisses me off recently and always is how if we were a group of men, that wouldn't be the first thing. If we were a group of men sitting on this call, it would be, how do we make money during the pandemic? How do we get people to do this thing we want them to do? They're not bad people. That's just how a lot of times they think about it. What did we worry about? What's going to offend or hurt or bother? Nope. We're not doing that now. And I want to introduce you now to something you're going to try. And it is a framework I've learned that has changed my life and career as a writer, as anything. It's kind of gotten into everything I do. It's called the Gateless method. It is something that has been, it's an approach to generating work that removes criticism or dials it back. It can't permanently remove criticism from the equation so that you can access your best work and realize your potential. On the page to start, because we're talking about content. This is based on Suzanne Kingsbury's study of neuroscience, Buddhist meditation, and literary masters. Suzanne Kingsbury is alive and well and living in Connecticut, is one of the most sought after developmental editors in the country, and has created a method that the whole point is to free up the part of you that generates brilliance, and to do it by removing all the blocks and stops and fears along the way that pump the brakes and don't allow you to get any momentum going. It was originally designed for writers, but I use it with everyone. I've used it in a room full of financial advisors who were 99.9% white men over 50. And we did this exercise. And I was kind of like, just humor me and just do this because I'm asking you to do it. And they did it and they blew my mind. So a group of creatives here, we're fine. You're going to love this. And I can say that. I didn't know about them, but they really loved it too. The point is, everything about sharing was around some fear, for me too. What this trains you to do is to associate creating and sharing with pleasure and reward instead of the opposite, fear, am I going to offend someone? How it works is right now I'm going to give you a prompt and I'm going to give you a very small window of time. And I ask you not to overthink it. You are not writing something perfect. You are not writing a LinkedIn post. You are not writing anything that needs to be anything. You are just getting past that bouncer so you can get some of these ideas out. And then you're not all required to share. We probably don't have the time to have everyone share. And in fact, I know we don't, but I would invite some people to share what you've written. And even though it's unfiltered and unedited and might be just a list of phrases, I don't care. It doesn't have to be in any way a finished piece of writing. It just has to be real. It just has to be you. And it has to be written from the body. Now, what do I mean when I say that? I mean, not just thoughts about, here's how I wish people did things. Like, it's got to come from, I'm going to get you grounded in the scene. Because the most moving work, any kind of writing, has a scene in it, has something in it that can be touched, tasted, smelled, felt, listened to. And so your writing, if you want your writing to move people, can't just come off the top of your head, right? It has to come from the actual physical you, because writing is a physical act. It's not just a mental act. So there are rules here. And I'm going to give you these rules now because the rules set the container and make sure that you feel safe. The whole point of this approach is to make sure you don't hold back out of fear, but you're safe here. Because number one, I'm leading it and I'm going to make sure that it's going to be that way, but I'm asking you to also follow these rules too. When we listen to someone read, we stay on the page. We don't wonder about what happened to this person in real life. We don't make judgments. We don't wonder what will happen next. We only pay attention to what's working. This is how you learn better craft in your writing, is by listening to like, oh, I really like that she did that. I love that thing. This is not about complimenting each other. Like, oh my God, you're so good. You're so talented. This is about really listening to where the energy is in the work. We don't judge, fix, or criticize. It's not that kind of show. And we don't disclaim our work, because you should actually never be disclaiming your work ever. It is a waste of time, and it broadcasts insecurity, doubt, and a distrust of your audience. Because if I say, well, I'm going to read you this, but it's not really good yet. You're like, what are you saying? You think I'm going to judge you on that? So there's no disclaiming. And we stay with the work. Sometimes people share things and they are all of a sudden surprise themselves by being overcome by emotion. It's okay. You don't let the emotions hit the brakes. You just keep on reading. And you don't worry that you're going to upset us. You're not going to upset us. The sturdiness of this container is what allows you to do what you need to do right now, which is tap that part of your brain that most of your day doesn't allow you to get into. So let's write. Now, you're going to trust me on this. It's going to feel a little weird, but there's no other time this week you're going to do it. So let's just actually do it. So I'm going to ask you just like, blah, blah, blah. I just went through a lot of content and now you're going to be doing something. So I want you got to loosen up the body if you're going to do this and really do it right. So let's just shake out your hands for a sec, okay? It's a lot of time on Zoom calls. I get it. It's a lot. Let's shrug the shoulders. Take a deep breath. Clench everything together really tight. Your face, your fist. And then just let it go. Now, take your hands off your keys. Rest your hands in your lap and close your eyes. If you trust me to do that and you're not driving, close your eyes and crawl out of your head where you've been living and drop down into the body. You don't have to do anything fancy. I just want you to sit for one bloody second. and just settle. Kind of like you just climbed out of your brain where all that water in your brain, like a swimming pool where kids are playing and the water's moving around, sloshing around. Just want you to get really still for a second and breathe. Just let your breath come in and out on its own. And imagine that that water is getting really still. You cannot have a clear thought or a clear line of thinking if you don't allow yourself to get real clear. And by that, I mean kind of still. Now I'm going to give you a prompt and it's going to pull things out of who knows where, who knows what will surface. Could be a memory of something from when you were 5 or 25, or maybe it's something very raw that just happened. There is no limit. You can write about whatever you want. You will not be judged for anything that you're sharing here. But I want you to let whatever swims to the surface, you start there. So once I give you this prompt, anything, you can ignore the prompt too, by the way, but anything that my prompt triggers, you might go, oh my God, that reminds me of this thing, and just start writing the scene. I'm 12, I'm in this house, I'm doing this. I know it feels weird because you're like, what does that have to do with anything? Don't worry about that yet. You're going to write what's there and just keep going and follow it. You're just going to trust that what surfaces now is meant to come up. Your subconscious is like, hello, please listen to me. You never listen to me. So feel for what catches. Don't worry about writing to impress anyone. You're not going to offend us. Just going to give you the prompt. It's going to drop down into your brain and into your body. I want you to think about a time you did the opposite of what you were told. Maybe it was bring your coat and you didn't bring your coat. Maybe it was don't go out with that person and you went out with the person. Maybe it was, hey, you should always do X. And you're like, meh, I'm going to do something different. Maybe there's 5 times that are coming into your head. Maybe you hear 5 different times in your life. Just jot them down. Where are you? What's happening? Show me at least one time when you, and maybe you're like, well, I can think of times when I took advice and I regret it. Okay. It's whatever hooks into your brain right now. What's coming up? A time you did the opposite of what you were told. Start writing. And I have my eye close on the watch. You're going to have just a few minutes, and I will tell you when you have about 3 minutes left. But for now, just run with it. And I'm not taking questions on purpose because the critic tries to get in your way by asking questions. There's no way to do it wrong. If you get stuck, switch scenes, switch to another scene, and just keep going. You do not have to tie it together in a bow. Keep going, because you might get a few things out of it and you don't even know. If you can't think of anything, just write, I can't think of anything, snowflake, snowflake, snowflake. Just keep writing as long as you keep moving. You have plenty of time left. Maybe it was a piece of advice that a parent gave you that you always thought was stupid and you didn't take it because it was dumb, or maybe you knew it was good advice and you couldn't bring yourself to do it. You can do any version of it or none.
No, ellos están cocinando.
Okay, just a little bit over 2 minutes. So you don't have to sum it up. You can keep running hard to fill up as much time as you can with the writing as you can, as much writing as you can, or you can start to zoom out on it a bit, whatever you want to do just to land the plane, as it were. Give it another minute. Now, I've been attending these style retreats and workshops for about 7 years. I've been certified to lead them for over 3 years. And I do them every week for a group that I run. I would do this a lot. There's nothing you can do that will that'll upset or do anything wrong or bad. So we're going to clear all that, need to disclaim away. And what I'm going to do is ask someone to go first, which is always, a thing, right? Who wants to lead us? And all I'm going to ask you to do is just read to me what's on the page. You don't have to read the whole thing if you don't want. If there's parts you don't want to read, that's up to you. All I want you to do is start reading. And then when you're done, you don't speak after that. You go into listen mode. The reason is that's one place I don't want to engage you in conversation, because I want you to be able to just listen to the feedback, because we're usually afraid of hearing the feedback. Oh God, what are people going to say? Bah. And it's like, when you listen to what Gateless feedback is, then you're not afraid of feedback anymore. So who would like to read to us first? And be a brave person. Oh, Nancy. Nancy's also Nancy, not Nancy's first rodeo. So I love that.
I was so excited for today. Anyway.
Yay!
Doing the opposite of what I'm told. I was the kid who didn't listen. I was told not to step in a mud puddle. Obviously, I stepped in the mud puddle. I think a lot of people are built this way. There's something powerful in seeing boundaries and trying to break past them. There's also power in making mistakes and learning from them. To continue on the mud puddle theme, I remember being young and wearing my new ballerina slippers to dinner. I've never liked a shoe more, or so I say with every shoe I've ever had. Also, I'm a shoe designer, so that's not very surprising. Anyway, you can guess where this is going. Not only did I step in a mud puddle I was told to be careful around, but said mud puddle was in fact a swamp, and my entire foot was enveloped by mud sludge. I remember my parents going into the restaurant to get a plastic bag so my muddy foot didn't ruin the car. Maybe I was upset, but mostly I remember the event itself with an endearing sense of joy and whimsy. There's something to be said in breaking boundaries, and the memories of those boundaries acting as both barriers and opportunities as we forge ahead. I don't think I'm told not to do things as an adult, but I also consider all directions as suggestions rather than demands. I'm 39, happily dating and still hopeful for the one. I've frozen my eggs because I'm not letting my body decide when I can and can't have kids. I'm 39 and just launched a business in a new industry after 15 years of designing shoes. I keep saying I feel like an 8-year-old playing business, but thinking back to the days where my ballet slippers met a swamp of sludge, I feel empowered and ready to forge ahead because mud wipes off.
Oh, Nancy, thank you so much for going first. This lovely piece. Oh my gosh. Okay, so here is how we respond in a gateless way. So when you listen, you go, okay, well, you don't have it in front of you. You're not going to remember the whole thing word for word. But what we point out are the things that stood out to us. And I will add this caveat. We don't turn the attention to ourselves. Oh, I stepped in a mud puddle once. Oh, I went through that. I can relate because I'm also 39. Not about us. We stay with this piece and with the work, right? Not about, well, I know Nancy and she doesn't get her feet wet. Like, we're not talking about Nancy. We're talking about, we refer to the person who just read as the speaker or the narrator. And we refer to that way. That way she's safe because we're not talking about her. We're talking about the work. So I will start. What jumped out at me in this, and my favorite thing is, well, two things. One is I was the kid who didn't listen. What a great opening line. It just sets the tone right away. And then it goes right to mud puddle. And that stays consistent as a theme throughout. But what I love is the image of not just a kid splashing in puddles, but a little girl with a little pink ballerina shoe that stepped into something that is mucky and dirty and wet. And she just didn't care. It could have been a story of, well, I was afraid and then I fell in the mud puddle and it was terrible. No, she did it. Why? Because she liked the idea. It wasn't to piss off her mother. I know I always hated my mother, so I did everything. No, it was joy and whimsy. So we have not only a beautiful lesson here, but we have an image that only could come from her. I've never heard a person tell a story wearing a ballerina slipper as a kid and stepped in a puddle on purpose. So we have image, we have innocence, and then we jump ahead and we see that she's 39 and doing things anew, not afraid to make a mess, and feels like an 8-year-old in business. So we see this little girl again, right? There's something childlike about it. There she is, stepping in the puddle. Like, all right, let's just see what happens. So there's a real spirit about it. Now that's a lot of feedback, but this, again, I'm used to doing this. I don't expect you all to have like a whole thing about what this essay means. It's not the job. The job is, what image did you love? And she can't just hear it from me. I wanted her to hear from other people. And if you go off the page, I'll just gently nudge you back. But what images or what thing, where did that piece pick up for you, or where did it stick in your brain? I see Genevieve smiling. Oh, Karen.
I liked Mud Wipes Off.
Yes.
I also liked the contrast that there's always someone who wants to go get a bag and not make the car floor dirty, and they want cleaner, they don't want to deal with the mess, and they don't want it to affect other things. And the fact that the speaker didn't remember how she felt about whether or not she should be upset, or even whether or not she got in trouble. It was so much embracing the messiness and knowing that there were other people that, at some point someone is out. You're always going to have to find that balance between the joy and the messiness, and the people who just want order and to keep things clean.
And no judgment of it, right? Like on the page, there's no judgment. My mother went in to get a plastic bag so I wouldn't track them out on the floor. It's very logical, but you're right. The presence of the parent that, well, let's keep the mess contained. Don't make a mess. Oh, you made a mess? Let's contain the mess. And she is actively seeking out messes. Well, who's surprised that she becomes the entrepreneur? No one, right? What else? I see some like wheels turning. Yes, you have Christine.
I was really struck by you freezing your eggs, Nancy. I think that's.
Well, hang on. Don't talk to her. Let's talk about.
Oh, sorry.
So the speaker talks about freezing her eggs. What about that jumped out?
Yes. Well, it just resonates with me because I had kids really late.
Okay, hang on. Pause.
Oh,
we just got off
not
the
about
page.
me.
Yep. No, we just got off the page. We want to stay on the page. What about that was moving in and of itself on the page? That is a detail that she didn't have to share, but she did, right? So
Exactly.
Christine, what about that detail
Very
you find salient? What you found, it was very personal. What did that do to your experience of what this speaker is telling you?
And it really resonated that the speaker is thinking ahead and planning for the future, and
very
not
interesting.
worried about what anybody else thinks.
Yes, but you know what? You raise a really good point. She planned. So even though she didn't go, well, today I'm going to step in the mud, there's a sort of whimsy and I'm going to step in what comes up. But as an adult, part of that is I'm going to plan for the thing I want so that I can continue to play, right? The freezing of the eggs allows her to play. Yep. Really great point. I love that point. I wasn't thinking of that point, and I love that someone brought up. This is helpful, number one, because we're paying attention to details someone put in their piece and why they jumped out at us. And then what it does for the speaker who's listening, oh, so people like that. Oh, I didn't know. Of course, you're not going to be like, I was offended by that, because I'd be like, you're not, that's not how we're doing that here. But she needs to hear, as you all do, what is it, the thing that did you like? Right? You hand a piece of your writing to someone who has not been trained in this method. What do you think of this? They'll hand it back to you. Here, you missed a comma. You misspelled this. And yeah, it's good. That's not helpful, right? But it's helpful for the speaker to hear, oh, she loved that. Oh, and you know what? Who's always the most surprised? The writer. I didn't even realize I did that. You know why? Because I gave you 10 minutes to write. You had 10 minutes. So yeah, a lot of stuff comes, you don't even realize the craft that's there, but there's an incredible amount of craft here, of story, of memory, of remembering the past, but the past comes and generates like new energy in her future. It's exciting. It's an exciting piece. And by the way, there is not a reason on earth that piece can't, in whatever form she wants, in this form, and she wants to edit it for a while, whatever, and she could put that on LinkedIn. You might go, yes or no answer. Is it appropriate to put talking about freezing your eggs on LinkedIn? Well, yeah, people will be like, probably that's not a thing. Well, who's deciding that? It's in the context of story, decision-making, and planning for the future. And there's no reason why I couldn't go on there. Yes.
I just tended to dovetail with that. What I also liked is the fact that the speaker takes this incident from childhood to demonstrate kind of her personality and her tendencies, and then can use it almost as a metaphor to talk about
being an entrepreneur and making changes. And so you have that, the spirit of entrepreneurship is demonstrated as something like someone who's willing to take risks and again get messy. And we see that that kind of is ingrained in the speaker from an early age. And it does make a good transition to, you know, well, how does that affect what I'm doing professionally? And I think that is really valuable for like a LinkedIn post, is because you're taking a very individual and human and whimsical, fun, also very sense-filled experience. Because I could also feel the muck on my, you know, sucking around my ankles here this morning in my dining room. And but then it also, like I said, demonstrates, oh, so it does take that. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to be willing to get dirty. And so it was just a good way to take the memory and use it as metaphor.
And I guarantee you, the speaker did not wake up this morning and go, you know what, I'm going to find a way. I'm going to write about this thing today. I mean, like it happens sort of spontaneously, but not. And what you're explaining there, and in a very, this is a fantastic comment, that's where you're seeing the arc to meaning. She's taken a story and then the arc. Sometimes the arc comes after. Sometimes you start with the meaning and you find a story that matches it. It doesn't matter what order it comes in, but it often springs from the bones of a story. Fantastic. Nancy, thank you for going first. Who'd like to read next? As you can see, no one gets hurt and it's totally fine. And we're dying to hear more. I mean, this is the best, right? I sit on calls with this group twice a week and everyone's like story hour. We love it.
I can go.
Oh, love it, Nance.
Okay. I had so much fun last time I did this.
2 Nancys in a row.
I got a snake. Okay.
That's right. Oh my God. Yes. Okay, good.
I'm thinking I could share that on LinkedIn.
Yes.
I was told I should date Jewish guys. Sometimes I did. Usually I followed my heart without checking for their religious ID. My first recollection of this was 3rd grade when I told my mom I was upset that I couldn't marry George Jones because he was not Jewish. She thought it would be because he was black, but I didn't see that, and it made her happy. In high school, I dated an Irish guy, so they sent me to a religious summer camp. His summer house was nearby, so I still managed to see him. Irish was my thing for a while, until I met my new husband, Raul Ortega, a Cuban. My mom's reaction, can't you date someone normal, with a normal name? And then she met him, and she fell in love. We've been married for 33 years, and not listening to opinions is something I told my daughters was okay to do. It has led them to be great thinkers and choose great partners, who of course are not Jewish, not doctors, not lawyers. A Jewish mom still dreams. And I figure it was something Mom actually taught me by saying, don't do it.
Oh my God, I love that. So fun. I was told I should date Jewish guys. And I followed my heart without checking for the religious ID. I mean, that is personal, right? We're talking about love, we're talking about romance, but we're also talking about women's ability to choose things that are right for them, regardless of the advice. I got to ask Yamilka, because you're smiling so hard. I want to hear what you think.
I just thought it was a brilliant piece. I think that you should post it.
Yes, you should.
It's just, it's so well written and, the story's there. And I love how you sort of brought all your generations, like your mother, yourself, and then, you as a 3rd grader and now your children and who knows what your grandchild, you can even continue, but it's such a lovely piece. I think that it just made me smile.
Because we can relate. Like the mother was like, please marry a Jewish doctor. And then she's the one with the kids saying, well, someone can dream. Like there's a standard, please do this. But then she, and the one after the other, we love this idea of a woman who has grown up and learned to love despite what she was told to look for. That sometimes the thing that you fall in love with is not the thing that you were like, I'm going to do this. It's kind of like you don't strategize your love life really, right? And she says, I cried when I was in 3rd grade because I couldn't marry George Jones because he wasn't Jewish, but he was black, but I didn't see that. There's something very powerful there. Oh, he's not these things, but he wasn't not that thing. It wasn't like, I can't marry you because you're black. Like she's a little kid and it was like she was looking through this one lens of what I'm allowed to do and not allowed to do. And then we see the rebel in the speaker. She's going to date as she wants. She goes through an Irish phase. I mean, we love this because the stories that are uplifting, especially for women, are when they get to decide through choice after choice what works for them. And even though the mother has the child's best interest in mind, that she knows what's right. There's something incredibly sovereign and powerful about a piece that romps through romance, but it's talking about different cultural backgrounds. There's a brush of like the is race an issue or not? I fell in love with Raul Ortega, a Cuban. Can't you date someone normal? I mean, and then the mother falls in love. It's just kind of, these are very big global frame issues because parents have an idea of how they want things to go, but there's something freeing and fun about it that, again, it's not, you could have all written about business topics if you wanted, but I find time and time again that when you're given the chance to tell story, you don't put it in the template of a blog posty thing about work necessarily. It comes from your life. I just think, how fun is that? How, not posed is it? It's not, it's real. She fell in love with Raul Ortega. Like, what a guy, What else, Jen? We love Raul.
Yeah, sorry. But
yeah,
I
sure,
did like
Genevieve, you're a great feedbacker. I want to hear more.
I liked the use of the word normal because one of the things that I keep hearing is, and you even see it on LinkedIn, is like, what is normal anymore, especially like in this COVID year and this pandemic. And so the whole idea of kind of the speaker's parents had a sense of what normal was. And the speaker and the writer was like, well, your normal isn't my normal. And somehow normal gets to be defined very differently because of the way the speaker makes her choices and lives her life. And again, that normal widens and opens things up as far as just being this very structured thing. And again, I think in the business world, and like we all are looking for what our new normal is going to be, because the old normal, we're not getting back, like I believe we're not going to get back to whatever our normal before March was.
That's right.
And so we have to move into this new normal. And so again, that the use of the word normal really caught my ear. So thank you.
Genevieve, do you want to read? I mean, I kind of feel like you should read.
Actually, no, I just, no, yeah, I'm
You don't want to read? Okay.
No.
I just figured, I'm like, no,
yeah.
maybe Genevieve should read.
Oh, TERRI.
Yes.
Hi. Do we have a second? So it was very interesting, both the Nancys. And
both the Nancys.
I'll go with Nancy Rhodes first. I just love the circular ending and the beginning. Like, it started with this little girl, we created imagery, and there's this dichotomy where the little girl has the mind of an adult. And when she's an adult, there is this little girl in her, where she's thinking like an adult, but there's also this child, which I really love because it made the piece very vulnerable. And with Nancy Russo's piece, it's like, and it's not just because I know her, but it's also like this self-assurance of,
yes, we feel that tone. Yes.
Right? Like, where do you put your energy? Am I going to fight my mom? No, I'll take that energy and go do what I want to do.
Yes, exactly.
So it's a good lesson for all of us. Like, where you go, where your energy goes is where you grow. So I thought that was a really good lesson.
Really great comparison too, Sweta, between the two, because in both cases, there's no pushing against the mother. There's kind of a love for, like, we know that's what you want, keep the car clean, and I date normal people, meaning people you want me to date. Right, but there's incredible power there, power to, not power over, right? And that in both cases, that's the kind of thing when we want to see examples of, well, we need to see women in powerful roles. We need to see them making a mess unapologetically and making choices that work for them. Those are two great examples. Now, I know sometimes people hear two people read and they go, well, those are so good and mine's not as good, so I shouldn't read. That is not true. We are looking through the lens of what is strong in the work. There is always something strong in the work. So lest you think, well, there's not, I would like to challenge someone to read. Challenge yourself, meaning you might go, it's easier if I don't read it, but trust me, you're going to feel different when you do. And I don't want you to lose the opportunity to do that if you'd like to. I'm feeling kind of this weird energy. You can always say no, but I just feel beaming energy coming from Damien. Is that your name? I don't know if Damien is your name or it's a shared account, but Damien Golden, I'm feeling energy from you and the kind of like, I can feel it that maybe you might read.
I'll read for you. I'm just getting a lot out of this. Getting a lot out of this. I really loved what you just said, making a mess unapologetically. the whole thing was worth just like that one statement.
Oh, good. Oh, I'm glad. Well, thank you to our speaker for doing it. So read us what you got.
A time. Okay, here we go. Millsboro, Delaware, 2008. We just had a riding mower delivered, and my husband was about to leave for work. But before he did, he said, "Don't get on that thing before I look it over." I worked at home and was faced with really wanting to cut the lawn and have it looking nice for when he returned home. A friend's son was there as well when it was delivered, and he was not helping. When my husband left, he egged me on to just go ahead, start it up. What could go wrong? He said with a smirk. Little did he know I had a propensity for breaking electronics, delicate things, and machine-like gadgets. So of course I got on. Turned the key, put it in drive to the nearest patch of grass. I then stopped, engaged the blades, put it in drive again, and started off. The lowered blades started to cut, and the motor whirled and catapulted me forward for about 15 feet, and then with a jolted stop, a big boom. Oh shit, I thought, Ron's gonna kill me. A friend's son laughed, of course. I felt stupid. Who did I think I was? Fast forward. Ron returned home angry, but more glad I was not hurt, and then intent on seeing how bad the damage was instead of chiding me like a toddler. A large bolt holding the blade deck wasn't all the way screwed in, so once threaded and securely in place, all was good, except my pride, of course. But that mended in time since I didn't really break anything, but did learn a valuable lesson. No, not to do as I am told. It was to read all instructions first and make sure that the damn machine or mechanical thing is together before taking off.
Oh my God. Wait, is that the end? I don't want to cut you off. That's it, Tammy. Thank you. What a great scene. This is a thing that's locked right in scene from the beginning. That's okay, Nancy Rhodes has to go. Millsboro, and you guys, if you have to leave, you have to leave. Millsboro, Delaware, 2008. The riding mower, the last words, don't get on it. You know what's coming. You know, and it's like what's going to happen when she gets on this thing? She wanted to cut the lawn. Like she's like, and then someone kind of eggs her on, but she already knows she's going to do it, right? And then we get this, there's incredible craft here, really great writing. The craft goes, she's in the scene, then we back up. I had a propensity for breaking electronics, delicate things, gadgets. So we know she not only is doing something she's not supposed to, we know she breaks things. And yet she's going to be like, well, I'm going to try this anyway. Which again, the same of like jumping into the mud. Like, let's just do it. Let's just see. And that's entrepreneurial thinking. Let's do it and figure it out as we go. And then the detail of how this works. I put it in drive. I stopped, engaged the blades, started off the lowered blades. Like there's a lot of great detailed stuff there. And then it there's a whole couple lines in there, like, and catapulted me forward, a big boom. So she gets like almost thrown off, you know, or either thrown off the machine or machine. There's just a big, like, this isn't how this is supposed to work. And then what happens? The self-blame. Oh God, I feel stupid. It's my fault. When come to find out, it's not her fault. It's the machine's flawed. The machine has not been prepared correctly. The thing has not been screwed all the way in. So what's very interesting is we get to see the person's brain in motion. I'm going to do this thing. Oh, it's my fault. I shouldn't have. And then you realize like, okay, it's not that I should do things that I shouldn't do. It's that I should really read the directions. So I thought that was really fun. But, you know, this is a very specific scene that maybe she never thought, why would she even write about it? But what else jumped out at you? What else was like, oh, I love that. Oh, Amy. Yeah.
I thought it was interesting too about when the writer said, the husband said he didn't want anyone on it until he checked it all the way through. And it sort of tied back into what the writer had done, where that was kind of just, she checked it through and it wasn't mechanically sound.
Right. But she found out after, which is very right. She's like, I'm going to figure it out. Wait, guys, I know people have to leave. I'm going to put my email here. If you would like to send me what you wrote today, and and since we're not going to get to it, I would love to take a look. There's also one other link before you take off that I wanted to share. I am actually starting the enrolling for this new version, this new round of the program. It's called the 6-week sprint, and we go for 6 weeks. We meet up to 3 times a week now, but twice a week at two different times, where you can do this writing. It's a place where you can actually get your writing done. So that is something, if you have questions about it, we can talk about it later, but it's just like this. It's just like a group of people, and we are prompted each time and writing, and you're continually generating and hearing the feedback, so you can go and take that stuff and share it in every and any place that you want to.
And I can I'll send your email and that link also as a follow-up.
Oh, good. Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
Please do.
Yeah.
But back up. I thought this was fantastic writing, Damien, and love the self-awareness. She learned without having to be like, see, this is why I'm a bad person. This is why I screw things up all the time. No, she learned a new lesson, but it doesn't change who she is. Again, a fantastic portrait of woman making choices, learning from them. But there's a kind of unapologetic thing. Like, this isn't the last time she's going to try something before she should try it or whatever, what someone else says. But it's very interesting, these outside characters in your pieces. These are characters, right? We don't know how, no one said we're not putting you through a truth-telling serum here. But the husband, the parent, these people in these stories that I'm hearing represent the outside world. They represent the standard, what you should do and be careful. And yet there's no accidents. The reason why I gave you guys this prompt is what I hear is this kind of wild feminine force, wild meaning it is not cultivated in a way that is meant for compliance only, in that you are doing things knowing that the other person, mother, parent, authority figure, husband, whatever, they don't necessarily approve, but you gotta do it anyway. And is that not the energy of what entrepreneurialism is? It's not just a bunch of tips on how to do this or that thing that you're good at. It's, do you think I don't want to follow Nancy Rhodes and see what she steps in next? A woman who dunked her nice shoes in mud and then went on to design shoes for a living and now is going to just do something else. Like, this is personality-led business. It's showing that you embody the values, and your writing is what shows me that you embody the values of what you do. So, I mean, ideally, I would just stay here for another 2 hours and hear everyone's stuff and show you. This is what your message is. It's not just, how do I differentiate myself from another marketing professional? It's these stories no one else could tell but you. So don't sit on them, right? I would love you. I welcome you to send me your pieces. I can't promise I will turn them around today, but I'd love to take a look and be able to give you some feedback that you didn't get here. I don't want to keep you too long. Is there any last question I can answer for you or anything else before we go?
Anyone? Do you think if you do a writing prompt like this and you put it on LinkedIn, you should swing it around and have it relate to your business in some way?
What do you mean? If you write to, meaning what they wrote today, what everyone
yeah,
wrote
like
today?
if you took what you wrote today, like,
oh yes,
yeah.
Yes. In fact, I only gave you 10 minutes.
Right.
I would say set your timer for another 10 minutes. Pick up where you left off. Just keep going. Just loose. Get loose. Kind of like they say running. Like just stay loose in your body. Let it sit overnight like brownies. And then in the morning, when things have congealed, look at it with a fresh eye. I say it's tricky to do your editing on the same day as you do your writing, because then you start going in and hacking away at it. Don't do that yet. Write and write, let it sit till it gets a little bit of a firmness about it. Then I go in the next morning. I go, oh, I love this. What do you love? Take the parts you love and move them up. And the parts you don't love, you just let them fall away. And then, yes, you don't have to crowbar like, oh, this is why I do. You don't have to like push it so far, but you can arc it to meaning in something that matters to you and your work, and absolutely share those. Share it if you want. There's no reason not to. They don't have to be perfect. And tag me in it, because I'd love to see what came out of it. You know, it doesn't mean, oh, I wrote this in 10 minutes, so it has to stay just like this. No, give it some room. Give it a couple of days. And yeah, and in fact, one of the things that I actually created, because people love the prompts, is a 30 days of audio where it's 20 minutes where you listen and you get the prompt and you do the writing inside of the thing. So beginning to end, 20 minutes, your writing's done. For anyone who joins me for the 6 weeks, they get that as part of the thing. But that is also something, if you're interested, I can show you where to find that. It's not, my website's a mess right now. New one is launching. But give yourself any prompts you can. You can prompt yourself or you can get prompts, but I'm hearing some really amazing stuff here. And I just wanted you to be able to hear how important that is and how vital it is to standing out. Thank you guys so much for making the time.
I wanted to also mention, we were talking about views. We've started a LinkedIn pod on the Creatives Roundtable. I know that because what's happening is people are mentioning, you put your link to what you're posting in the feed, and then everyone comments on it or likes it or shares it. And my views have been going up to over 1,000 for things as well, as I know a lot of people.
Because of that talking around it. If there's that engagement, it kind of raises it up.
Yeah.
It does.
And then other people who liked it, it'll then go on their, people will see what they liked, etc.
And comment on each other's. I mean, you're a group who knows each other and sees each other. Like, tag someone in it, be like, oh my gosh, like, look for each other's stuff. Like that is important, right? It's no longer about everyone needs to be quiet but me. It's kind of like, how can we raise the right sound around all that we're doing?
Exactly.
Thank you so much for having me to this. This was really fun and very impressive group. I'm here if you have questions.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.